How should investors navigate October, which has historically been the most volatile month for stock markets? Joining me today, Frank Holmes, CEO of U.S. Global Investors. Frank, welcome back to New York City. Thank you so much for being in studio with me.
It's the best to be in the studio with you.
Yeah, we have a lot of ground to cover today. S&P, gold, Bitcoin, but let's start with S&P 500 trading flat for the first week of October here. Can we expect immediate downside risk? How do you see it?
It's all around China. Everything's pivoting around China. When you look at Purchasing Manufacturers Index as another precursor to global economic activity, which is also highly correlated to oil and copper, they're all negative. And that's a reason for zero and negative interest rates all around the world, which is propping up the feared trade for gold. I think everything has to do with how China unfolds.
Right, but it's not a given just because equities are down that gold will respond positively. I think people think, well, S&P is down, gold's going to skyrocket. Not necessarily, but how do you think this could play out?
Bad news is good news for gold.
All right.
I'm so serious about it because what's happening is how fast the bond market immediately responds to negative PMI numbers. As how quick we see negative rates in Denmark offering you to basically take out a mortgage. It's all over the world. I was just recently in Germany, and it's slowing down dramatically.
And it's interesting you brought up Denmark. I just got an email from a reader this morning saying, gold and silver sales skyrocketing in Denmark right now.
Correct.
So it's really a global domination of gold we might see happening?
It is, and I think the idea also, if you have Andy Warhol prints, or they're going up in value. So if you're seeing that certain Rolex watches, they started manufacturing them, they're going up in value because the money printing and the baby making is growing faster than the economic activity you're seeing.
And I have to tell you, Frank, the last time we spoke was Denver, and you made crazy headlines. I can't even tell you how many emails I received following your call of $10,000 gold or higher. And I think people were what they liked hearing is that you don't necessarily think the world has to come to an end to see these levels.
You don't need a war. You don't need famines and all the other dire straits that people talk about. It's just the the G20 finance ministers and the heads of their central banks. The more of them are buying gold because they see that they're destroying fiat paper. They're worthless. It's just ongoing printing of money. They won't take the fiscal policies and streamline regulations. I think Steve Forbes said that the Bible has 700,000 words, but the IRS tax code has 7 million. Some gargantuan differences everywhere in the world. Well, the regulations in Europe are so massive, and there has to be basically a turn back on this. There has to be turn back the dial, but they won't do it. So what are they doing? Zero interest rates. And that just makes great assets and real assets like gold become much more attractive. You're also seeing peak gold. There's just no big supply coming on. Recycling's bigger, but you're not really seeing any major discoveries. And junior exploration is a dud. There's no money speculating in exploration.
Right, and that's a really good point. And what I keep asking mining CEOs is, when are we going to see the next big gold discovery, right? Now, I know we've had successes like Great Bear and whatnot, but a huge gold discovery, right?
Correct. And there's no gold camp like when I first got in the business, like Hemlo or Nevada.
So do you think it's just a question of, we need a higher gold price to see those scenarios unfold? Would it take getting back to 1900 gold to see these great big discoveries because we're not doing enough exploration?
I think you have to see it well through 2000 to really ignite it, because what's happened in the past 7 years is an extreme increase in regulations. And those regulations and the interpretation of the fiduciary rule in the UK has actually hurt retail investors. The interpretation in Canada is that anyone over 65 cannot speculate in anything that's a junior company. They can buy lottery tickets, they go to the casino, but I can't turn around and buy a junior mining company. And I can buy options, but I can't. So that thought process is going to have to take substantially higher gold prices. And in the U.S., major platforms like Merrill Lynch, et cetera, anything under a $200 million market cap or under $10 is not to be recommended. So if you get that thought process, you're going to have something much bigger.
And for investors waiting on mining stocks to really take off, and again, we did see some anomalies really blast through. Do you think it's going to be a repeat of when we saw the last gold high, that it took a while for those mining stocks to catch up and eventually outperform gold?
I think the market with the quant world is much more selective. The idea of using quant tools to pick junior stocks or to turn, that's why I invested in Goldspot, the quant approach to looking at geology, the quant approach for picking gold stocks themselves that are producers. So that quant approach is going to be very important, and I think that you're going to see for the junior mining companies, those companies are going to have the great management, great communicators, they're going to have luck with geology, but they're going to use these tools like Goldspot of using machine learning and artificial intelligence to de-risk their spending.
All right. Frank, you're one of the few CEOs that actually is involved in blockchain and cryptocurrencies and gold, and you equally have a passion for both.
Yes.
They can coexist.
They do coexist.
Do you think the debate has died down a little bit here between gold versus Bitcoin?
You know, I try to tell people what I've noticed is that when we had the first run up in gold stocks in 2002, 3, 4, 5, and then we had a big correction, we had new accounts coming in. Even with that gold correction in 2005, it didn't matter. People kept investing as it was falling, and then it had this another surge to it. You had this huge crash, like it's unprecedented. I've never seen where your mining equipment falls 90% in 18 months, the value. You deploy $200 million, that equipment falls that much. It never happens in any other industry. And the prices fell 90%. And so when you look at that sort of industry and you compare it, the cryptocurrency is real because the wallets, the number of new accounts during that whole crisis of falling are growing at a 45% angle. So there's new buyers coming in all the time. My experience started with because I couldn't launch an ETF in the space. The regulatory world was concerned about AML, anti-money laundering laws. So along came the opportunity of Hive and co-investing and being a principal shareholder and launching this company.
Right.
And it has been the most incredible, volatile ride of my life for many, many reasons. And the partner that we had, we ended up getting into a proxy battle because I wanted transparency and accountability. We prevailed, and guess what? We got our financials out, and we made money last year during this crisis, and we have 2 employees, and we're doing $36 million in revenue, and my original vision was this was going to be like a royalty company. Goldman Sachs is $1 million of revenue per employee. We're pushing $16 million. We made money in the worst quarter that you would think of the company. So I'm feeling pretty good about the turn on the company.
Okay, I know it's given you a lot of ups and downs.
Oh, my economics! I've seen my wealth go up dramatically and then crash below. So yeah, and it's painful for all the shareholders. But I want to thank all those loyal shareholders that understand that Hive correlates over 90% of the time with the price of Bitcoin.
All right, getting back to gold, Frank, you'll be in a webcast October 31st with another fan favorite, Pierre Lassonde.
Oh, I love Pierre.
Your call. His is 25,000 gold over 30 years. But you'll
do you know how many people really realize how significant this man is?
I hope they do.
He was the visionary behind the GLD.
Right.
He was the visionary behind, along with Seymour Schulich, of Franco-Nevada, over a $20 billion gold royalty company. He gives back to the arts. He gives back to his alma mater. He's just a wonderful, charismatic guy. Wrote a book on gold, taught me a lot about gold investing when I first got in the business in 1978. So to have him come on the program and why he forecasts $5,000 to $25,000, it's rational. I'm sticking with 10,000. I believe it's real, and I think that we're going to see it, and it's not going to be the sort of crisis world that you're thinking of that's going to have to drive it. It's going to be all of a sudden gold is a real important asset class.
Yeah, and I'll always be grateful to interviews like you, Frank, and Pierre, and people might not know this, but Pierre and you were one of the first interviews I ever did for Kitco News. So before, when
I didn't know that.
People didn't even know what Kitco News was and didn't want to give me a shot, they're like, oh, we don't have time to do this interview. Now we have a lineup for people who want to come on. But you both gave me a chance, so thank you for that. And those were breakthrough interviews because you're big names in the space. So
that's one of our best investment decisions.
So, well, thank you. So October 31st, you'll be doing this webinar with
We're doing a webcast, a
So where do
webinar.
we watch it?
And you go on to usfunds.com and you
There?
log on
Okay.
and get your name in the queue.
Very cool.
We have a limited number of space, and I think we'll get a couple thousand people listening to
All
it.
right.
And go gold.
Yeah, I'll be watching. I'll be one of those. So Frank, thank you so much for coming to New York City and visiting with us again.
Happy investing.
Yeah, and thank you for watching. We will have much more for you. So be sure to stay tuned to Kitco.com.